Country Podcast Edition.
I've always been around great songwriters and artists my whole life. I'm Michael Knox. Welcome to my world.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jason Aldean, and you are listening to my boy Michael Knox on Knox Country Podcast.
Welcome to the Knox Country Syndicated Radio Show podcast. Welcome to the show. I'm Michael Knox. I got Miss Shalacy Griffin in the house.
Hey, everyone.
Today we're doing something a little different. We have an old friend of mine, one of the biggest, most powerful guys I know in the music business, Ben Vaughn, who is president and CEO of Warner Chappell Nashville. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good. Did you just call me old?
I called you old friend. Okay. I didn't call you old particular, you know.
You forgot my favorite part of my story, that I was Michael Knox's intern.
Oh, no. We didn't forget that. That's coming up later.
I wanted to make sure we got that in there because that would be very important. All right.
I was going to bring it up as a confidence thing for me, saying, man, look who I can pick. I can pick these powerhouse guys from these companies now. But Ben, welcome to the show, dude.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start out. A lot of people want to know how can they get from where they are in school and what they're doing to where you are in such a short time. And I know there's not a formula, but at least they can learn from kind of your passion and how you went about your trip. So me knowing you for a long time, I know you started out in college. You were doing some DJ things and stuff like that. What were you doing in high school in music?
Well, actually, when I was in high school was when I was a DJ.
Awesome.
So we started out in radio, and this is eerily familiar in a very cool way, just doing this with you guys today. So it's taking me back to those weekend moments at WMSK back in Kentucky. I think to answer your question, what can you do when you're starting the business? You know, you do what you're asked, and you do it with full effort.
Yeah.
Because everyone's watching. When Michael Knox says, "I need a pizza guy for my events," you do that with full effort and gusto. You bring it, and maybe it makes an impression.
But I relate to that. I mean, because I started out in college too, and I was doing recording people in my dorm and doing things like that, and just kind of being that guy, where that just kind of gave people what they were looking for, and then worked your way up. But your path is, turned into, you were coming out of, is that Belmont College? Is
Belmont,
that correct?
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you had a lot of music people in your class with you that you were kind of with that have all grown up kind of in the business.
Sure.
Did you think that kind of helped your movement or confidence?
Yeah, just to speak a minute about Belmont, because that is a really great Nashville university that has a music business program that a lot of artists and executives and songwriters have come out of. I remember first class, week one, the professor said, "Look around you, and what will happen is some of your classmates you will work with for the rest of your career." It's completely true. Names like Ashley Gorley, went to college with Rusty Gaston, Jeremy Stover, Brad Paisley, Kelly Lovelace. So yeah, that was a very true statement.
So that's kind of your class.
Yeah.
That's the class of Ben, right there. So that's cool. And, so you're getting out of school. How many internships did you do before you landed at Warner Chappell?
Well, that was my first.
Okay. And then you were at Warner Chappell for a while. You were interning there, and you were doing great, because I remember in the tape room, man, you were the guy that I could count on. You were the guy who we went to and used, because you were always hungry, always wanting to do the project, but that got the eye of a Scott Hendricks, of a Trey Bruce, and right. Another outside company from us. So tell us kind of that process a little bit.
Well, first, let's go back to the tape room for a minute, and you. See, she's Shalacy. I'm turning it back on him.
How was that working with Michael Knox back? What was this? The 90s?
Yeah, this would have been 94 to 96. Yeah, 94 to 96.
Okay, how was a young, hungry Michael back in the day?
Yeah, this is where we want. I'm sure the listeners want to know about Michael, right? No. So I would love to give you this perspective.
No,
just a little.
No, they would, because this is great. So Michael, at that moment, from a music publishing perspective, I mean, he was the man. Still is, by the way.
Oh gosh!
But
this is not going the way I thought it would.
No, I got to give him props, man. And he, I remember vividly, one artist that he was absolutely crushing it with was George Strait. Just crushing it. And I would get the call, "Ben, you've got to take this cassette."
Yes.
Notice I said cassette. Over to MCA, and I still remember bringing those tapes for Michael, with Carrying Your Love With Me,
Yeah.
carried away, those kind of moments. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, Michael had, he had the disco ball in his office, which, as a young 20-year-old, right? I'm like, I love this business. Look what you get to do.
So sexy.
So great. I got to attend some of my first number one parties with Michael. Met George Strait.
Yeah.
Because of Michael. So just to put a little bit behind the curtain there in the mid 90s.
Now, he had a mullet, correct?
I do not want to comment on that.
There's photo evidence.
I look cool.
I heard was this pre-fanny pack or post-fanny pack?
Oh, this is fanny pack.
Okay.
There's no pre or post. This was fanny pack days. If it didn't fit in the fanny pack, I probably made Ben run it down the street too.
Yeah, that's true.
But so you're there. How long were you at that internship?
At Chapel, I was there. Technically, if you want to be technical, it was an internship turned into a part-time job.
Yeah.
And I was there for almost 2 years.
Yep.
Yeah, about 2 years.
And then Scott Hendricks and Trey Bruce started watching what you were doing, and they offered you a gig to come over and work for one of our co-ventures.
Yeah, there was a smaller partner company with Warner Chappell, and long story short, I got that opportunity to go there to work part-time as well. Still in school.
Yeah.
I was a junior in college, and actually I got the chance to run the company when I was 21.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, so it was like three writers at the time, and I wasn't out of school yet. So it took me about 6 years to finish school. And actually, Michael, I give him big credit for that, because when that company was thinking about, are they really going to let the part-time intern run the developing company, right? Michael was one of the people that said, no, I think he can do it.
The business side is very natural to you. You're a sharp guy, man. You're a great politician. And, in this business, which we need, how did you enjoy the song plugging? How did you enjoy that part of it? Because that's a different beast.
Yeah.
You got to kind of get your head around.
I mean, one of my favorite things ever in the business, even to this day, is to see something that a writer has basically pulled out of air, right?
Yeah.
An idea, a concept, whatever. And they turn that into music, and they turn it into, usually a demo in that early stages. And just to see that go all the way through to, being out on the radio. And then still my favorite thing is to listen to something that I was involved with in my truck on the radio. Like, that is the
Even
best.
to this day,
oh,
still.
It's the best feeling right there. So the publishing process and the pitching process is hugely important there. So, yeah, I really love every aspect of what we get to do creatively behind the scenes. To connect songs, connect artists. It's truly the best.
Okay, well, you're over there. You're running this publishing company. You're 21 years old. You're killing it. What was the first thing you got your hands on where you got something cut or something was cut that you were involved in, and you go, man, I think I'm in the right place. I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Or, what was that song?
I don't know if I remember the first. I remember the artist, though. We had really good success with Randy Travis and Jody Messina and Diamond Rio. Those were happy days. I mean, when I think back at those times, like those early days, they were happy days because we had a small company and we had not a lot of songwriters, but we had a lot of success on the charts.
It's kind of like it's fun to not have rules yet.
Yeah, and we were co-venture with Chappell. We were partner company, and so Michael was there, and I still got to work with those guys, closely on a lot of things, and I was comfortable for that respect as well. So,
did you ever feel like incredible pressure being so young and sort of being handed the reins and like?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How did you deal with that?
Well, part of me probably just didn't know any better, in terms of just being kind of fearless of like, let's try stuff and let's see what happens. Let's get out there. I mean, I wasn't, and I also had good mentors around me as well. I mean, Michael being one of them, and to see how things were done, so it was never a problem to figure out how to make a cold call, or it was never a problem to ask a lot of questions of the right people, in those early days, because I realized I really didn't know. So the way I was going to find out was to watch and to really ask kind of the right questions, and then just to do and try things. And
just so you know, man, at Warner Chappell, man, we had a lot of interns. And that's where I wanted people who are listening to the show to understand what we're talking about. We had a lot of interns, but you're the one that got the job offer. and it's all because of hard work. It's all because of being educated about where you are and what you're working, and knowing the right time to make a move.
Yeah.
And having Scott Hendricks, Trey Bruce, Marv Green, I can't remember who else was at the company at that time, but those were big people in the business at the time. They were growing. Marv was taking off. Trey had already taken off. He was trying to produce, and then Scott was Scott Hendricks at the time. I mean, the guy was on 10 million records a year as a producer.
Then we worked with like a Dave Loggins and a John Bettis, which for me, again, remember I'm in my early 20s, and if you don't know those names, those are two absolute legendary songwriters, Hall of Fame writers that I got the chance to work with very young in my career, and I learned a ton from the writers as well.
But I think that's a lot of the difference in your approach, is that you were learning. A lot of kids today get on the sled and they enjoy the ride, but they don't learn. They don't soak it in. Well,
I'll go ahead and tell you, man. I don't think I have anything figured out. I mean, I think we're all learning every day. I think the minute you as a professional in the business or whatever, you stop learning or you think you know it all, that's when it can be problematic. You know.
Yeah.
Especially now. I mean, the business is changing weekly. Well, it feels like so.
Yeah. So how long were you there at that place?
Big Tractor was about 6 years.
So name a couple of huge songs that you were going to number one parties in.
Oh, like How Your Love Makes Me Feel, Diamond Rio, Spirit of a Boy, Wisdom of a Man, Randy Travis, True, George Strait. We remember that. We had fun. We had fun with that. Amazed. Yeah, that actually Amazed is a great one because that was the first time that I got to be on television.
Yep.
Right. So when it won the ACM Song of the Year, you were there.
Yep.
We had the largest crew ever coming up on stage at a country music award show for that song, and I'm pretty sure because of the large amount of people, that's one of the reasons that I think publishers and the whole crews are discouraged from doing that to
this day. They thought they were going to announce the winner, and like Tim would get up and Scott would get up, but all of us went up. You know, it was great, and it was national. It was like an ASCAP BMI award, and we were on national. And television.
And you can find that moment on YouTube too, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's it's fun. This is Ben Vaughn, and you're listening to Knox Country
Podcast.
Now, from that place, you went to EMI at that time?
Correct.
Is that correct? And
that's right.
Because Gary Overton was at Warner Chappell for a small time, and then he left, and then I kind of took his post, and then we were doing those things, and then you were at Big Tractor, and now Gary O is looking you back up.
That's right.
To kind of come to EMI. Yeah. So when you came into there, what was your position coming in there?
Well, that's interesting. You know, before I answer that question, just the effect in the music business of working with similar people. And I actually had forgotten that you came to Warner Chappell in part because of Gary O.
Yeah.
Right.
He hired me.
That's right. So that's a great full circle nature of the business we all have. I started EMI. I was vice president of A&R, so I basically ran the creative department.
Because Gary called me when he was interviewing, and I remember all that. I remember all that as well. What year was that? Is that like 2002 maybe?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah,
something like
roughly,
that.
Yeah.
So you go into EMI, so bigger company, bigger rules, bigger budgets, bigger things, and that's when you started really turning into. I feel that's when you started turning into a publisher because you had bigger deals you could do. You could really get into it a little more.
You know, it's interesting. It's a great perspective, and I'm sitting here kind of remembering, but that was I was at the smaller publishing company, which was an amazing time. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Especially from I'm a big believer in I don't care about age. I think in the music business, it's great to be thrown into the fire.
Yeah, it's
sink or swim, figure it out, and you really can see how people respond when that's their circumstance.
Yeah,
but that was my circumstance at a small company for a number of years, and then that's one of the reasons why I chose to leave to go to a bigger company. Because I knew that there was a lot of things that I just couldn't learn, you know, in the position that I was in, even though it was going really well. And the bigger company you'd give me a lot of knowledge. And working with Gary, you know, he was always an extremely open boss in terms of like, I learned so much from him.
Yeah, well, Gary wanted to win. So Gary gave you tools to say, hey man, what do you need to do? What do we need to do to win? Go do it. And that's got to be a great boss for a guy with an open slate of how you can make your own rules. And that was the transition. So you walk in there, you're running the creative department. So now who are you signing? Who are you looking at? What deals are you most proud of moving into EMI?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, we were really blessed to work with a lot of writers and artists that were very successful. But it's always hard to name these lists because I know I'm going to leave somebody out, but just to pick a couple of folks, Chris Young was getting going at that moment. Paisley was working with EMI. Alan Jackson was working with EMI. We had, kind of later on, Thomas Rhett, we started working with TR when he was really a college student. And then some of the writer names, I think some people that may have actually be part of this show, like the Warren brothers, Dallas Davidson, Rhett Akins. I mean, Tom Shapiro. One of the coolest things I've gotten to be a part of with a guy like Tom Shapiro. So just so this audience knows, Tom, I don't know, I think he had 50, 60 hits in his career. He was noted as writer of the decade in the 90s. And we were working together at EMI when he was basically in his 60s. And he had, in one of the years, he had the most activity he'd ever had as a writer, and he was in his 60s.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's really a unique piece of Nashville right there, right? Where you can have a writing career that can last 20 plus years and be successful. To take it home, I know two writers you worked with at Warner Chappell, Wendell Mobley and Marv Green, still part of Warner Chappell, 25 plus years later. It's a great part of our industry.
So you're there, you're doing that. Y'all were winning Publisher of the Year all the time. Y'all were really in a good zone, and you were popping that out. Who were the biggest artists y'all got to work with kind of coming through the building? Because I know sometimes artists come and go, but were there, who were the new kind of artists coming up other than Thomas Rhett? Were there other guys kind of coming up with that now today have careers other than him and Chris Young?
I'm trying to think. Some of the ones that are out today were kind of towards the end of the EMI period because that company ended up selling. To
Sony.
Right. But some of the kind of in maybe the beginning and middle were like an Alan Jackson. Okay. Like a Daryl Worley. That was kind of some of the bigger artist writers. So
EMI sold and Warner Chappell came knocking. They came to talk to you about running their creative department and doing the head. Now, this is when the full circle of your life comes about, where you're like, where you're like, oh my God, I'm fixing to go run the company I started at, in a sense. So how did that process happen? Because Gary was leaving EMI, and you weren't choosing to go to Sony. So Gary had left EMI, and I was at that moment I was 34, and I wanted, one of my goals had been to run a major publisher, but I wasn't sure if they would let me do that at that age. And they did. And so I got to run EMI for almost 3 years. Right. And then
were you the youngest executive? There?
And then when the merger happened, then the opportunity at Warner Chappell came. And that's kind of how that process started.
But now you got into Warner Chappell.
Right. And then, full circle. Yeah. That was actually one of the coolest parts was I was like, I really would like to do this. And this is where I started. And then a few of the valued employees that we currently have at Warner Chappell, they were there when I was an intern.
Yeah, I know.
Right. And good friends of yours I know as well. And it's great. I mean, it's just, our quote, one thing that I think is so important in companies is culture. Like that's probably the number one. And so we're really proud that we have a good culture with people that have worked there, 20 plus years. And I don't know, we have a great vibe around the office.
And I think that's a testament of how vital it is to have good relationships in town from day one and to keep those relationships in good standing, even if there's a falling out, even if, you know,
That's right.
you just never know where you're going to end up, who's going to be running the next place that you end up at.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, with Gary O, because you guys had such a great relationship from day one, it just kind of, it followed you.
Yeah, Nashville's, I mean, community is the word. It is truly a community. My favorite part is that we, you know, we do have companies that we work for, and talent and writers and artists that we represent. But truly, we're all working for Nashville, working for Music Row, working for the country music industry. And we're just doing it through certain platforms.
Well, let's look at this now. You mentioned a bunch of names at the beginning of the show, a bunch of guys you went to college with and stuff. So you still see a few of them on a daily basis.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
still do business with a few of them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So who are those? I mean, who are the guys that are kind of your crew that you still see? You know, after all these years, that's what you want people to understand is it is a crew, it is a family, and that's how you succeed is you got to have something to believe in and someone to trust.
Yeah, I think when you say that, like my number one would be Rusty Gaston, who I know you are close with as well. And Rusty's he's a wonderful entrepreneur. He owns a partner company we work with, This Music, but we started knowing each other in college, and that's when you said that, that's what pops in my head.
But now y'all were like you started out as this intern, you know, now you're on the CMA board, head of the ACM boards, you know, board of directors, whatever, and then you're on all these committees now. Now you're part of the system. Now you're part of the family. You know, that's got to kill you, man, to look at that and go, wow, man, you got to be, I'm proud of you. You got to be proud of working your way into being that fabric of what country music is right now.
Oh,
And you are so young. I know you said the age thing, it kind of doesn't matter, but I mean, you are young considering everything you've accomplished. I mean, you've done it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's been 25 years since I started on the row. So yeah, but it doesn't. It's gone by so fast. Like it doesn't even feel anywhere close to that.
So how does that resonate with you? Because now I'm sitting at the CMA boards, ACM boards, and I'm looking at it as a creative. I always look at it a little differently. You know, I'm kind of a producer, a record producer. So you're creating content. You know, you're developing content. You know, you're heading up the content. So you got to look around and go, God, man, I never thought I'd be here. You can't say in college you were going,
Oh, of course.
I'm going to be here.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It is an honor. It's an honor and a blessing to be a part of the story.
Yeah.
You know, to be a part of the story of Nashville and Music Row, and just try to do. I mean, I don't know. I think if you're talking about boards and those kind of moments, like that's where I think is what we should all do in terms of keeping what's best for the format as the number one guiding principle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I try to do. I try to do that.
Well, speaking of boards, I don't know who I have to kiss butt to, but I've been nominated like 6 times for Producer of the Year.
Mercy.
How can I win one of these?
We've been calling him, he is the Susan Lucci.
I am the Susan
Of that award.
Lucci of the ACM
Man.
Producer of the Year award.
Oh man, I don't know.
How do I win that award?
I do not. I'm not a producer, so I do not know how to answer that question.
I mean, you know, I don't drink really. You know, I don't go out and party a lot, so I don't know how to win that award.
Apparently you need to do those things.
Yeah, apparently I do, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd be a good partier.
Probably
I don't
not.
know. I don't know.
I think you're doing great.
Yeah.
I don't think you changed a thing,
And I'm
man.
like, it's okay. You're doing good. Now, did you come from a musical family? Did you always know you wanted to do this? When did that
Ooh,
start?
that's a good question. Okay, I actually remember the moment when I figured out kind of what I want to do in life. I was driving home one night pretty late from the radio station that I was working at on the weekends.
And what type of radio station?
Country.
Okay.
Country music. Maybe they could hopefully carry, Knox Country 360.
There you go. Hello.
Right. But I was driving home really late one night, and I was 18 and thinking about college and what I wanted to do. And my parents had really raised me to be like, find out what you love to do and then figure out how to make money around it, And I really just loved listening to music. I was a fan, okay? So to answer your question on the family, no, we were not a musical family per se. But I was an appreciator of music. I was the kid that had the biggest CD collection of anybody in the county. You could find me often at the local Walmart in the music section.
Yeah.
So how do I have a career around loving music was the thought at that moment.
But those are the most important people to have running the show, are people that actually love what we do.
Love it.
And we have a half and half in this town sometimes. We got some people in between. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you can tell.
By the way, and I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't understand that.
But you can tell the guys that love what they do, and just the passion of the company, the atmosphere, like you said, of the company.
Mm-hmm. But I think from a background perspective, from a family perspective, my family is very blue collar, mechanics and coal miners from Western Kentucky. But I love that because like the work ethic. I mean, everybody in my family they work, and no matter what it is, they get it done. And I think for me, like, I'm just lucky that what I get to do, and I show up and work every day, all the time around something that I love, and that's music.
It is a blessing.
Yeah,
it is a blessing.
Absolutely.
Oh man, there's a lot. Imagine what we would be working at if we didn't get to do this.
Wouldn't be sitting here doing this right now, I'll tell you that.
Knox Country Podcast Edition.
Some of you know me as a record producer for acts like Jason Aldean and Thomas Rhett. Others know me as the son of rock and roll legend Buddy Knox, Party Doll fame back in 1957. I'm Michael Knox. Welcome to my world. You're listening to Knox Country
Podcast.
Hey, this is Keith Urban.
What's up, y'all? It's your boys here, Florida Georgia Line.
Hey, this is Little Big Town.
And you're listening to Knox Country.
You've entered Knox Country.
Welcome back to the Knox Country Podcast. All right, so now you're at Warner Chappell. They just made you CEO and president. Is there a title higher than that?
I don't know.
For your
I'm
Nashville,
gonna find out.
For the Nashville office, is
don't
there
know.
a title higher than that? But
don't know.
What are things exciting you now that y'all are working on? What are things that kind of keep fueling that fire for you and everything?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I get this question a lot, and I don't know if I have like the perfect set answer yet, but I can kind of stumble through it if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think I get to touch and be a part of so many different things, and I can go from in 1 hour maybe something that's not great, like a tough circumstance, a tough business circumstance or a defeat. The next hour we have an amazing thing that just happened, and so every day is kind of full of ups and downs. But things that are really exciting is always the writer development process and the artist writer development process, and watching people that kind of get that first success for the first time.
Yeah.
Love that. And just really love especially the artist writers, because we do a lot of that development. And that's honestly, I think part of the reason that I'm going to turn it back to Knox again. He's like that, I can tell. But part of the reason I think I'm wired that way is because early days in watching Michael, watching him be so heavy into development with artist writers. And I'm thinking of names like J.D. Myers. I loved J.D. Myers.
Yeah,
oh my goodness. And Danny Lee.
Yeah.
And and then up through Jason. That really helped shape how I thought about this kind of stuff as well. Of like, and I've always felt like you would look for people that could really be stars.
Yeah. Well, and I also found you seem to sell something you love better than something you don't love.
Of course.
So I always made sure that I loved it. It didn't matter how much you loved it.
Right.
As long as I friggin' loved it, then I felt like I could sell it.
So a quick story, a side story on J.D. Myers, and I may not have ever told you this. I'm not sure. So we'll see in a minute. So I was interning at Warner Chappell, and JD, he was working on JD, and I just loved the music. I would make myself cassettes and listen to them all the time in my spare time. Love Was Like a Train.
Yeah.
Right. And
I go crazy when I think about you.
Yep. There you go. And so, by the way, I still have those cassettes.
That's awesome.
I can't.
Do you have anything to play them on?
Yes.
He probably does.
Yeah, I do.
He probably does.
I can't get rid of them, but anyway, you may not know this part. So JD, I don't remember his name, but he had a manager, and I went and met with the manager, trying really hard to get a job there.
Yeah.
Because I just thought that JD was going to blow up and be the next whatever, and and they turned me down cold. Now
I don't remember that.
Yeah. So in retrospect, I'm like, I'm really glad that didn't really work out.
Yes, yes.
But yeah. Anyway, but the artist development process is I think is just fantastic.
Y'all do have that in common. I mean, I can see it. You know, I'm not saying it just came from Mike, but that's probably why y'all have connected and meshed so well back then and still today, because y'all both have that love.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I look up to Ben about is I'm all over the place. I'm a true creative guy, you know, and I look for guys that are good at putting teams together. You look for guys that are good politicians, because I'm not one, you know, and you look for these guys to help you kind of connect the dots to get to that next goal you're trying to get to, because it is important for a creative guy to accomplish goals, and you got to have the people to help you accomplish those goals. And Ben definitely does that for his team big time. And that's what I've always admired about your process and how you work and everything you put together over there.
Well, thanks. But that, I think you hit a really important thing that I don't know if everybody gets in the business, but it's that team aspect of, and again, we're talking about artists.
Yeah.
And man, if you have a weak spot on any of the teams, it's tough. It really is to get over that. So that's why the publisher, the producer, the agent, the label, the management, the business management, the attorney, I hope I'm not leaving someone out, the PRO, like everybody fills a role, and you need all of those folks to know what they're doing, and because it's hard. Like, it's hard to break an artist and have success. So.
All right, let's break into some personal questions in.
Uh-oh.
Back in the day, looking for music, we'd go to Tower Records. We'd walk around and just, you know, read stuff. Sometimes they had players, sometimes they didn't, whatever. Today, you go online and Spotify's your Tower Records, in a sense. You know, do you wish it was the old way where you made more of an effort to find something, or do you like it being this easy?
Ooh, that's a tricky question. Can I say I like both? Because there's a difference between, like, a Spotify, an Apple, and Amazon, whatever your digital service provider of choice is. Pandora. I'm going to leave somebody out. XM.
Politically correct. Watch out, baby.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I loved rolling around Tower Records and, you know, physically scanning through the CD racks and the vinyl and whatever. So I definitely miss that. Yeah. Just actually.
What's a good fan experience?
Holding and touching an item and reading the titles and the songwriter. Yeah, I miss that.
It makes you wonder if that's why the festivals are bigger than they've ever been, or if that's why the CMA Music Fest or things like that are bigger than they've ever been, because it's almost old school. You're walking around like you did, but it's a virtual reality walk around, and you get hit with all this stuff.
What's the experience? But I do think when you talk about, like, the DSPs and streaming and that kind of thing, I think the experience of the music user in 2019 is still at the very, very, very beginning of what that's going to look like. Yeah, I think that will continue to be innovated, right?
Yeah.
And
what do you see? Where do you see the next thing being? How can it be easier?
You mean easier from a standpoint of
finding it?
Yeah, I think that's going to come with. I don't know. I think we'd have to, like, be invited into the secret Spotify and Amazon meetings to figure out what the plans are there. But I think the user experience is good across the board. But it will get to great, and it will get to be more where you are having more experiences within the platforms.
That's what I was going to say.
Just early days.
Mm-hmm. But I think the next stage is finding out how to make it more visible instead of just an MP3. How do we make it more visible? When you find something, how does it blow off the screen to you? And you go, oh my God, I love this. Because right now it's all based on you liking a song, which is great. But how do we get back to the CD cover and the albums of today? What is that looking like tomorrow? How is that experience going to hit? So I believe it's got to get more visible somehow.
Well, a little bit more personal. I mean, do you remember, I know when I was young, I would sit there and I'd take these old cassettes or I'd reuse old cassettes. You know, you'd put the tissue paper or something to cover up the holes so you could record over them.
Memorex. That's what I had. Yeah.
And And you would sit there
Yeah,
and
you
you'd
were a
listen.
pirate of music.
I actually was, sorry. But I would listen to the radio, the countdown, and wait. And, as soon as the DJ came on, you'd hit record, to catch that song. And it's like, oh, you didn't catch it. So you'd stop and you'd go back and you hit. But it was such an effort, but it was so rewarding.
Yeah.
It's like, because we couldn't afford to just go and buy,
Sure.
all these songs and that. So it's like, to me, it was, and then I remember sitting there and I'd listen to songs over and over and write out the lyrics, until I memorized the song. Didn't realize that's what I'd be doing for a living.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, wigging
Well,
me
the
out.
lyrics today are so easy to remember.
Yeah.
Because there's like 10 words a song.
But
right
I mean,
now.
it was an effort, but it made me such a fan of the music that I was loving.
Yeah, and I think one thing and I'm just from watching my children, right, and how they're listening to music and stuff, they're obviously not having to put forth that much effort of what you just described, but I think the real positive is they just listen to so much more music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's constantly going.
Yeah, with that ease, you get that ability to be exposed
Right.
to so much more.
Do you find out that they get burned on songs quicker? Or is it, or do they just keep them around? They're just finding new stuff.
I don't think they do. I don't think they get burned. I think if they love it, it's obviously going on their playlist, and it's constant there. No, I don't. Actually, don't. I don't think they get burned.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my whole thing, is that just making it more of an experience when you find it somehow.
Sure.
The video world, I feel, has gone away, but it feels like it's coming back because of the YouTube experiences and because of these ways. So do you think you think video is going to ever be like the MTV again? In a sense, it seems like it's going to help sell product again, but it might just be done cheaper and in a different way.
Yeah, I think videos, and I don't know the stats on this, but like my gut says, and from what I kind of see, is like it's going to continue on a growth pattern, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's like, I don't know if MTV's the right analogy, because that was one thing, one channel, and I loved MTV. I want my MTV, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere, right? So, I just think it's like video is going to be, and will continue to be just like breathing. I mean, it's a massive, important part of an artist and constant video content.
Yeah.
You know?
And touring now has gone to a different place, a different level. Like they're going back to package shows. They're going back to 4 acts on a tour or something like that now, where for a while there it was 2 acts, and maybe an opening act. Now it's getting to be a bigger environment. So, I'm hoping that down the road it does become an experience again to find talent.
I think you're right.
Hey guys, it's Shalacy. Check us out on the web at knoxcountry360.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at knoxcountry360. I'm just curious, so if you had to pick the 5 biggest songs you've been a part of.
Oh, man.
In any aspect.
Yeah.
Whether it was when you were in your DJ days, your, early Warner Chappell days, your EMI days,
right,
to today.
Man, that's tough.
If you could, 5 songs that you could say, they made an impact. They didn't even have to be the biggest songs. Just they made an impact on you.
Man, I guess that's a really hard question, because
Good.
One thing I want to do and I haven't done yet, because I don't know when I'll have the time, is I want to do a playlist of every song I've had something to do with in 25 years.
You just got to do it one at a time. I've already started my playlist
Right.
of like my memories, my 90s memories.
Right.
And it's just one at a time.
Yeah, but so it's kind of like on my personal goal sheet, right? But I just haven't done it yet. But I think I think for me, a couple of specific things that stand out. I remember, certain songs where I was when I heard them, right? In certain moments. So like, I remember when I first heard the work tape of "Need You Now," right, which was a huge global hit for Lady Antebellum, and we worked with Hillary Scott, and I remember this was not this was a hit. It wasn't a huge hit, but it was an amazing piece of art. A song called "Forgive," that Rebecca Lynn Howard.
Love that song.
Okay, there you go. Boom.
Love that song.
And if you know that song, that's the reaction it elicits, you know. And I remember where I was in Leaper's Fork driving on the road when I first heard the work tape. I'm a big work tape guy. I love that kind of thing, you know.
What a vocalist.
And didn't Trey Bruce produce that?
He did.
Yeah.
That's right. He did. And we had an interesting issue there where Faith Hill was going to record that song.
Yeah.
And you probably remember that.
Yep.
And that was like her song for her project, and it was like the cornerstone of the record, and she'd had it on hold meaning she had said she wanted to record it for, man, I'd say almost a year. Like, it was a legit thing. And Rebecca was an artist who had finished her record after that song the song was written after her record was complete. And then they looked back and said, no, we should go record this. And we had to go talk to Faith about it. And Faith couldn't have been more gracious and wonderful, so much to the point that when Rebecca had it out, I think it went top 5, top 10, top 5.
It was her song. It was her biggest song.
It was her song, and Faith sent her flowers at
awesome.
in the dressing
nice.
room.
Mm-hmm.
To bring it home, just to kind of answer your question, this was a hit for Keith Urban last year, a song called Female.
Mm-hmm.
That one was really fun because I remember when it was Nicole Gallion, who we work with, who's amazing.
Love her.
Yeah, she's the best. She had sent it to me, and I listened to it, and we gave it to Keith and Dan McCarroll, and literally it was on the radio in 21 days after it was pitched. And I've never seen that.
That's awesome.
I've never seen that happen before, you know? I don't know. Those little moments to me, like when you hear, I don't know, that's always what stands out.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you got coming up, man, that you want to kind of talk about? Anything big coming up?
There's a new Jason Aldean record coming out. I don't know when, but later this year.
I think it might be 2020 during the election.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. So that's always
It'll
exciting.
be a big year.
I mean, you know, there's
What about your kids? Are they showing any signs of music stuff?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, my daughter's 16. Her name's Ruby. She's amazing. And my boys, Griffin is 13 and Zeke is 9. They all love music. They all listen to music all the time. Ruby, the oldest, definitely weighs in on her opinion on songs.
Yeah.
From time to time. And I think she's got great ears. And as Griffin has as well. But yeah, I used to think there was no way I'd want my kids to be in the music business, because it's a hard business. Like it's a tough business. But I don't know. Now it's like it's an interesting
Are they more
conversation
on that side, like not wanting to maybe be songwriters or musicians, but more of sort of following your league of in the development and discovery?
Ruby definitely writes songs. And we just encourage everything.
Have you signed her yet?
They
Because if
wanna
not, Knox can sign her at Pier.
Not yet. She would be lucky to get to work with Knox.
I'll sign your kid so I can get information on what you're doing.
Oh man! But there's all kinds of great things coming out. I mean, you know, some of the stuff we've been really fortunate to be a part of and work with. It's done really well recently in the Grammys. You know. We work with Casey Musgraves and Dan Shay, and Chris Stapleton and Dave Cobb, Brothers Osborne. I mean, like, and a lot of those folks have had good experiences at the CMA Awards, you know, in the fall.
Yeah, how long has Stapleton been over there with you guys?
So let's see, that'd be about maybe 5-6 years.
Yeah, because everybody in town was a fan of him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't happening as an artist, and then all of a sudden the Justin Timberlake Stapleton thing that he did on the awards blew him out.
Yeah,
of the water.
we started working together before all that.
Oh, I know.
And it was interesting because I'll just go ahead and say like Chris is my favorite. I know you're never supposed to call favorites in this business.
He's such a nice guy, though.
But like that goes back to my EMI days. We had a partnership with a company that Chris was writing at. And I just remember just listening to his demos and work tapes and just like someone else would the radio, right? Mm-hmm. So when the opportunity came to find a way to work together, I just jumped at it. And you know, it's kind of like, we'll figure it out. Like, because I guess one of the rules that I have for myself in working in music publishing and trying to think about deals and working with people, you just bet on talent and we'll figure it out. Like, we'll figure the rest out.
Dude, the first time I met him, we were cutting an album, and we cut one of his songs on it. And this is before the big CMA thing. He had his single was out. It wasn't rocking and rolling. He was out with Miranda doing an acoustic thing, and he was just in there. We were cutting one of his songs, so I called him in to sing backgrounds, and I told Jason to come down and meet him. So Jason drove down to say hey to him while he was singing. So he went in there and sang, did his part, and it was amazing as usual. And this was before it all happened. He was such a humble guy, and I'm a huge fan. I mean, he sang so amazing. It was crazy. Yeah. Anyway, and it was too fast and for Jason. And then all this stuff happened at the next CMAs, like it was just right around the corner. Right. I believe it's CMAs, and he was still the same cat years later when I saw him. Yeah. I'll text him once in a while and just say, "Dude, congrats, this is great," and he'll text me right back. I mean, very, very down to earth guy. Everybody's his fan.
Great guy, great family. Morgan got to work with her for a long time, which was really a special time. So yeah, great family.
So Casey Musgrave stuff. Was that from inception with you guys?
Yeah, well, so Casey was signed to Chappell when I got there.
But she hadn't had a record out yet, had she?
The record was just coming out.
Okay.
And she's amazing. What a real true artist, And then she's got such a great team around her. And she's such a great example, though, of, again, talent finding a way.
Yeah. What's definitely different, as much as it isn't, it's traditionally right down the mark, but it's so different for what everybody else is doing today.
Right.
Now the guys that I love too are the Dan and Shay guys.
Oh yeah.
Dan hangs out in our office a lot writing with some of our guys.
Sure.
And man, just the first single you heard out, you were like, they're like Rascal Flatts. And then you hear that daggum Tequila song, and you're like, man, there's something else going on here.
Yeah. The thing about those guys, and it's been cool to have worked with them, from the beginning and kind of watch that go down, is like their work ethic's fantastic.
Yeah.
Shay Mooney's, arguably one of the best vocalists we've ever had in the country format. And then Dan is just, I don't think it's possible to outwork that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Well, he co-produces the project too, right?
Yeah, he is just firing all cylinders. So
he sends me songs too all the time. Just so you know, he'll pitch me songs a lot.
It's amazing.
But dude, the Tequila, that's a good story with you guys too, because that's your writers.
And this is, I guess I can talk about this, but they Tequila, they're long. I mean, so I know this is a country program, but Tequila is also now in the top 20. On the pop charts and the top 40 charts.
Yeah.
And then internationally, it's going to be released in basically every territory.
So this might be a full circle to Amazed for you.
It could be.
Remember how Amazed kind of started doing that? It was the first pop crossover mix.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
But it's true. I hear Tequila because I listen to everything.
Yeah.
A lot just because I enjoy it, and two, I just kind of want to, kind of listen to what's going on around me and not just in my world. And I hear that, I'm like, and I almost like, am I still on the highway, or am I still on, and it's like, no, hits one, and it's like I hear it all the time.
Yeah. But Tequila is a big song, and Nicole was on our show too, man, and hearing her story about that was amazing.
So great. And then the other writer, Jordan Reynolds, is a great example of someone that's really come into his own over the last few years, and just a tremendous songwriter in person.
So my last question for you: Warner Chappell Christmas parties? Are you still doing poker night? Are you still doing casino night? Huh?
That's funny. Well, I will. I guess I can tell the story. So yeah, we have an awesome team at Warner Chappell, and we also have a Christmas party committee, and Nina runs that actually.
Yes, Nina.
And yes,
Nina Wright, our favorite.
Amazing.
Nina is amazing. But yeah, pretty much every year I bring up casino night as an option, and because part of it's because I remember the casino night you did back in the day, which was amazing.
Yeah, I rented out a whole country club and didn't know I was renting the whole country club. I thought I was just renting the place, the little clubhouse, and it ended up being the whole country club. So Whipperman gave me some money to buy some, and I added a zero to it to buy the gifts that people win. And Buddy walked in and he's like going, "Wow, how did all that?" And I said, oh, I thought you gave me 5,000, not 500. And I spent $5,000 on all these gifts for everybody to have. Those jackets, Bugs Bunny jackets, everything.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's I share in your enthusiasm for being able to market and also have I mean, look, you know, it's a fun business to be in, but like it's also hard. It's hard work, and you know, hard. You get a lot more defeats than you get victories. Mm-hmm. You just do. And so when we can have a good time and we can, you know, show people that we appreciate them and stuff, let's do that. So,
dude, this is awesome. Ben Vaughn, I love you being here, dude. I really appreciate you giving me your time, man. I've known you a long time. I'm very proud of you. I'm proud of how you've maneuvered your career to where it's at as being the dude on Music Row. So I do appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ben.
Knox Country.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Knox Country Podcast. Special thanks go out to co-host Miss Shalacey Griffin and producer Donnie Walker. See you next time.
You've entered Knox Country Outtakes.
Is Shalacey in this too? Or she's going to pipe in?
She's co-host.
Okay, she's co-host.
Yeah,
yeah, so we can team up on you.
No, we're going to team up on you.
Shit.
No, but yeah, she's usually in y'all's corner, that's for sure.
Perfect.
No hitting the desk. We had Jeff Stevens in here earlier today, and he hit the thing.
Yep.
He did this the whole time.
Every time he made a point.
Should I use my radio voice or
whatever?
Was that not your radio voice?
Well, no,
that was
not really.
his power voice, the
Yeah.
CEO president
That was I'm the CEO.
Well, you should do. Let's see. This is WMSK 95.3, Morganville, Kentucky, AM and FM.
Liners and Knox Country 360.
You made me cry.
I know.
Jeez. You can't forget the 360.
No.
Well, you can. Right. It's starting to get rebranded to just Knox Country, but
right.
The 360 just means interview.
What if I want a 180 deal?
Then you get half the story.
Yeah.
We should use that.
Knox Country Podcast Edition.